A podcast? Did your radio show get canceled?
Fire. Low down and filthy, but the discipline is on point. Schooled myself, made my own dojo. A cold flow with the whole dose of soul. Maintain composure, even in fury. An anomaly, properties undiscernible to me.
This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we examine why I'm currently so frustrated with financial advisors. Oh, yes. Could get some email on this one. Why I'm currently frustrated with the financial advice industry. For those of us joining in us for the first time, and those of you joining us for the first time, I'm Peter Dunn, Pete the Planner, back in the studio in Indianapolis because I'm on the road yet again. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona this week. Back in the studio in Indianapolis is our good friend, producer Nicole. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Pete.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So today we're talking why I'm so frustrated with financial advisors. Let's give you some background here. I am a former financial advisor, and no, I did not get booted from the industry because of a Ponzi scheme. I'm still in the financial world. I'm really more in the financial wellness space. That's neither here nor there. When I was a financial advisor, what I'm about to talk about with you today frustrated me then, and there's been a huge uptick of this now. It is my biggest pet peeve. It is the insistence on the fee-based community. Okay, so as a point of distinction, there are really two major ways you can compensate a financial advisor. One is via commission. And while your money is used to compensate that individual, oftentimes that fee is, of course, paid by the financial institution in which your advisor places your business with. Okay, so there's the commission-based advisors, then there's the fee-based advisors. Fee-based advisors are folks that you pay directly. You know exactly what you pay them, and oftentimes you either pay them out of pocket or you make the choice to let the investment itself liquidate in small portions to pay them. But finally, here is why I'm so frustrated. I am sick and tired of financial advisors going with the mantra, we only make more money when you make more money. Now, see what happens. You're going to hear this on commercials. You could hear it on a commercial during the break of this show, as long as you're not listening on the podcast, because then you'll just hear amazing music. If you're listening on the radio right now, or if you watch TV, it's oftentimes on cable news, on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, Bloomberg, CNBC, you're going to see commercials that purport that a financial advisor, if you go with them, they will only make more money if you make more money. Therefore, they feel that your interests are aligned. I completely disagree with that sentiment, and there's two major reasons. Number one, at best, it's insincere. Okay, at best, it's insincere because here's the reality. If you lose money, as I will show you here in a few minutes in the next segment, they still make a lot of money. So you're not perfectly aligned. If you were perfectly aligned, then they would make significantly less money when you make money. Now, don't get me wrong, or when you don't make money. Don't get me wrong, they do make less money, but it's not that big a deal, as you will learn. And then at worst, the assertion that your interests are aligned based on the fee, it's misrepresentative of the relationship that you should have with your advisor. It's the old, if you do well, if I get paid. If you don't do well, I get paid. And don't get me wrong, I have no problem with a financial advisor getting paid. And I probably should have said this to start the show. I want you to have a financial advisor. Oh, I want you to have a financial advisor. I want you to have a financial advisor so badly that I'm dedicating this show to helping you pick a good financial advisor. It is my opinion. I shouldn't have to express the fact that something's my opinion when it's on my show, but this is my opinion. My opinion is that if you are attracted to an advisor to do business with them because they say that your interests are aligned because they only make more money when you make more money, you need to back up because that is, in my estimation, not a great reason to want to do business with someone. So here's what we're going to do. In this first segment here today, we're going to go through an entire year's worth of returns we're going to give you $500,000 today. Who knew? Listening to this silly little show, you'd be given $500,000, but it's monopoly money, right? It's not even monopoly money. It literally is. It's nothing. But we're going to assume you have $500,000. We're not going to. Anyway, let's move on. $500,000. Then I'm going to show you what a year's worth of positive returns does to not only your portfolio, but to your advisor's fees. It's important to understand this. Most financial advisors that are fee-based are paid on a quarterly basis. So at the end of each quarter, you settle up on their fee. And in my opinion, actually, this is even an opinion, just math, you should generally pay their fee out of your pocket as opposed to out of the investment proceeds or the gain proceeds, I should say. So let's take a typical fee. Now, fees can range anywhere from what we call in the industry 50 basis points, which means 0.5%, okay, 0.5%, all the way up to 2%, which I'm just going to go out and say that's crazy. You should not be paying someone 2% to manage your investments. For the sake of conversation today, we're going to say that you pay your advisor 1%, which is really fair. It's pretty fair. Now, if you got $1 million or more, you should not be paying someone at 1%. You should be paying less than that. If you got a lot less than a couple $100,000, you probably will be paying a lot more than 1%, probably 1.5%, but probably shouldn't be any more than that. So let's do it. All right. So here's what we're going to say. At the beginning of quarter one, we're going to go through 4 quarters, the 4 hypothetical quarters, so you can understand how you pay your financial advisor. And of course, in this next segment, we're going to show you what that looks like when you lose money. So beginning of quarter one, you've got $500,000. We're going to say that you made 10% on the year or 2.5% per quarter. So at the end of quarter one, let's say your portfolio went up 2.5%. The value of the portfolio was up 2.5%. That doesn't necessarily mean that you made that money. You didn't lock in your gains. It's just it's valued now at $512,500 because you made 2.5% in the first quarter. Now, hypothetically, we're going to say your advisor's fee is 1%, but on the quarter, it's 1/4%, right? You don't pay 1% per quarter. You pay 1/4%. You pay 1/4 of the fees as you go. So that means that your fee for that first quarter is $1,281.25. So at the end of that quarter, you will have had $512,500 being the value of your portfolio. You would have $1,281 being your fee. And if you took that fee out of the portfolio, like I prefer you not, you would have $511,218. $511,218. I didn't say that right. Okay, so that's quarter one. So Nicole, jumping back in here, at the end of one quarter, you're not upset because you made $12,000. What do you really care that you paid $1,200, right? I mean,
right? Yeah, no,
that passes the sniff test, right?
That's offsetting it. Yeah, no, at that point, it's not even really a detail.
Right, exactly. No one cares at that point.
No one cares.
Next quarter, your starting balance is $511,218 if you happen to pay the fees out of the account, which a lot of people do. A lot of people do because people just don't want to write a check for $1,200 to their advisor. They should, but they don't. So their ending balance after that next quarter's 2.5% return takes them to $523,999.22. They made another $12,780 in that quarter, yet their fee went up, right? The advisor made more money because you made more money. The fee was now $1,310, essentially a $29 increase in fee. And you're like, well, what's the big deal? I would agree. What's the big deal? You paid another $29 in fees and you made another $280. Not too shabby, right? No. So going into the third quarter, your balance is $522,689. You make another 2.5%. You pay the 1/4% fee, which is at that point, it increases because your value of your account increased. The fee is now $1,339. And your ending balance is $534,000. Then you get into the fourth quarter, Nicole, and you got that other 2.5% gain. You pay the 1/4% fee. At the end of the year, Your ending balance is $546,408, and you've paid $5,300 in fees. So that's good. Okay, so
Yeah.
and I want to be very clear. That's great. That's what we want, Nicole. If you had $500,000 and at the end of a year you had $546,000, and in order to achieve that you had to have paid $5,300, you're comfortable with that, right?
Oh yeah, that makes it pretty well worth it.
I think so.
Yeah.
So here's the problem.
Oh.
When it goes down, the math is consistent because we're dealing with percentages, but it starts to not make as much sense for some reason. So coming up after the break, I'm going to show you what happens to your fees when you lose money. Why your advisor and your interests aren't exactly aligned, because they're still making a lot of money and you're losing a lot of money. That is next here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner.
Stop what you're doing. Log on and hit Pete up on Twitter at Pete the Planner.
Primo beat, man. Kanye let this one go. Man. Sound good to me. I never question the right of any man to voice his opinion as strongly as any can. But then again, many men are citizens of their own little world, so they ain't really fitting in. I'm in the background blending in, camouflaged by the scenery, but I'm a champion. Revamp the camp again.
All right, so my biggest pet peeve for financial advisors is the claim that interests are aligned, that they only make more money when you make more money. Nicole, you've had to have heard that line of thinking in advertising. I know you don't watch a lot of cable news and you don't listen to the radio that much, but you've had to have heard that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so not that you're a noob or that you don't understand this stuff, because you understand this stuff more than 90% of the people out there.
A noob.
Right?
That's great.
Yes. So you got to think, though, right? You hear that and it's like, oh, that sounds pretty great, right?
Yeah. That's like unless you really dive into it, or exactly like you said, you know a little bit about the industry, you think from, first glance, you're like, oh, that's not that bad.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to dive into it. So if you, in the first segment, we talked about what happens if you have a 2.5% return every quarter for 4 quarters, and you pay your annual 1% investment management fee, broken down into 0.25% per quarter. Funny how that works. What ends up happening is you made $46,000 under that scenario over the course of 1 year, $46,000 on your initial $500,000 investment, and you paid $5,300 in fees. And Nicole, you and I collectively, which means everyone feels this way, we were okay with that. We were okay with the fact that you made $46,000 and you paid $5,300 to get that done. We're okay, right?
Yeah, we're okay with that.
All right, so let's dig deep into what if it doesn't happen that way? What if you start with $500,000, and in this scenario, what we're going to do is we're going to show you losing 2.5% per quarter. Now, I have to be honest. If I look up my statement, I've lost 2.5%. I don't know if I particularly care. I really don't. Where it gets interesting is you're doing 2.5% of $500,000. That's $12,500. Now, if you lost $12,500 off of $500,000 at the end of the first quarter, you'd have $487,500. Of course, you got to pay your management fee. They still manage your money. Yeah, you lost 2.5%. It may or may not have been your advisor's fault, which is another important distinction here, because I'm trying to be fair. If you lose money, although your advisor may oversee the process, it doesn't make it your advisor's fault. It doesn't even make it their responsibility. It's just reality. It's sort of they're the messenger, don't shoot the messenger in some circumstances. But also, to be fair, sometimes, it certainly is your advisor's fault. In this scenario, who cares whether it's their fault or not? You still have to pay them $1,218 for that first quarter. They lost you $12,500. Then you had to pull out your check register and write them a check for $1,218.75. Nicole, that probably would not be great.
No, that doesn't sound as great.
It's not, especially when you stack on the second quarter loss of 2.5% of another $12,157. Your balance, which was once $500,000, is now $470,000 $24,000. You've lost just under 25,000, or you've lost over 25,000 because of fees, when you include fees. And then you have to write them another check for another $1,185. So 2 quarters in, you've paid out $2,400 in management fees, and your balance is now $28,000 less than what you started with. And that commercial where they said, we only make more money when you make more money, really starts to ring hollow, right?
Yeah, that pretty yeah.
And that's 2 quarters at 2.5%, which isn't that bad. So let's dive back in. Quarter 3, you lose another 2.5%, hypothetically here. You pay that very reasonable 0.25% for your quarterly fee, another $1,152. So at this point in time, what we have is you've paid $3,550 in management fees, and you are now down $41,000.
Boy, this escalated quickly.
God, it got spicy.
Yeah, it did.
Nicky Peppers, you're like, oh, this isn't too small. Oh my gosh.
That's a real slow burn.
Next quarter, final quarter in this scenario, you're at 2.5% loss as this hypothetical exercise is going, which takes you to $448,000. You have to pay that $1,100 quarterly fee, which then takes your balance to $447,342.42. This is to suggest, Nicole, that you lost roughly in value $52,600, $52,600, and you've paid $4,600 in fees. That's where you hear a commercial, you see a commercial, which is the whole reason I'm having this show today, because I get so upset every time I see, well, our interests are aligned. That is technically,
no.
Well, it's technically true. It's technically true. But it's insincere, because when you lose me, or you are partially responsible as an advisor, like I was an advisor, for losing someone $52,000, and they pay you $4,600 to have you lose them $52,000, it sure as heck does not feel like you're aligned.
No.
All right, so let's take a look at what happens with a couple minutes left in this segment. What happens the next year once you were down 2.5% a quarter that year? Let's say you go up 2.5% per quarter after that. I'm going to sort of fast forward this one a little bit, not read through each quarter, but here's the bottom line. If in the second year of this particular illustration, you then gain 2.5% a quarter, here's what ends up happening. Your ending balance is $488,892. And in this scenario, you have paid $9,300. You've paid $9,300 to your advisor over the course of 24 months, 8 quarters. And you are down $12,000 from your initial investment. There's a couple things we're illustrating here. One of them that we have to mention, otherwise this looks like a complete fraud.
Yeah.
Anytime you do something like this, where you're showing projected investment gains or losses, anytime you show a loss in the first year, whether it's showing retirement income projections, or in this case, advisor fees, anytime you show a loss in the first year, man, this thing goes to heck in a handbasket pretty fast.
Yeah.
Now, if we would have shown a gain, then a loss, it's a little bit more favorable. But I have to, I don't know. I was going to say it to be honest. I don't know if it's being honest. It's just being transparent.
Yeah.
If I'm a client and I pay my advisor $9,300 over the course of 2 years, and I'm down $11,000, and that's if you're consistently down 2.5% for 4 quarters, then consistently up 2.5% for 4 quarters. That's really frustrating. And I think the disconnect that a lot of consumers and clients feel is that the fee-based industry makes it feel as though what I've just described isn't reality. They gloss over it in their marketing, they gloss over it in their one-on-one discussions with people, but it is reality, and it is frustrating. Again, the point of my show today is not to talk you out of having a financial advisor. I want you to have a financial advisor. But I want you to talk about this scenario. I want you to talk about their thoughts on you paying them in down years. I'm not expecting them to waive their fees, but I want honest discourse. All right, coming up after the break, I got a good email. We're going to go through an email I got from a caller or emailer. I didn't get an email from a caller. Anyway, we're going to do that next here on the Pete the Planner Show. I am Pete the Planner.
Yeah. Axe hand on the beat. Yes, sir. Glass House. Yes, sir. Mr. Kinetic, Rusty Redenbacher. ATFU. Naptown. Yeah. Peace to Fetty and Fredo. Helicopter choppers. Yeah, y'all ain't hip yet. Cashing in like the end of the game at the casino. I lean so the glare of the rear view don't hit me. Swiftly through the avenues and boulevards. Old soul playing on my speakers. Old soul but young and age a boss player. Not from the Himalayas, but my fam gave me Gary, Indiana game.
We reach into our email inbox here on this segment of the Pete the Planner Show. If you missed the last segment, where were you? I mean, the show started a while ago. No, in the last couple segments, we're talking about how much I do love the fact that you should have a financial advisor. I want you to have an investment advisor, but I still get frustrated with some of the practices of an investment advisor. And if you missed any of that conversation, please go to PeteThePlanner.com/podcast. Here's the question of the day. Sort of a long one, Nicole, but it's a good one. So let's get after it. Hi, Pete. My wife and I wanted your opinion on just how we should go about paying for college. I'm 49 and my wife is 48. We have 4 children, twins that are 17 and going to college in the fall. And we also have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. Nicole, that already sounds incredibly expensive.
Yes, it does.
And just imagine if they're all girls and you're dealing with paying for weddings. Like I'm already sad.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
My wife and I both have decent careers that will provide pensions. Also, between the two of us, we have about $1 million to supplement our pensions in retirement. The mortgage between their 403Bs and things like that. The mortgage has 2 years left on it, and then the house will be paid off. Each child has a 529 plan with about $115,000 between all 4 plans. We have a home equity line of $250,000 that we've never used and hold on to for emergency use. Now there'll be some gift money from the grandparents, and we're going to have the kids take loans for a portion of their tuition, so they have some investment in their own education. After graduation, we may help them with those loans if we're able, but we're not telling them that now. So don't read this on the radio. Oh. I'm just kidding. I made that part up. Retirement for us is probably approximately 10 years away. So we have some ideas how to fund college, and again, we want your opinion. We could use some of our home equity line funds. Now, I know the interest is not tax deductible anymore with the tax law changes, but we could take money from that loan without having a closing. Also, with the 4 kids at this time, we don't know exactly how much we would need to borrow in the future, being the youngest is in 7th grade. Another possibility is to use the gift money and 529 money up front and not space those funds out over 4 years. Then, once the home is paid off in 2 years, we could then put some of that money towards tuition. Yet another option is to refinance our mortgage altogether. Do you have any advice on the best way to go about paying for college given our financial circumstances? Your help is greatly appreciated. Thanks, Joe and Michelle. Nicole, at first glance, their situation's pretty sweet.
I was going to say, looking at it and just hearing everything that they've got set aside and what they haven't touched yet, it's like, you guys, for 4 kids, you're sitting in a pretty good situation.
Yeah, here's the thing about this email. I get a lot of emails from people that lay out their financial situation for me, and I can just tell the way this email is written that I really trust these people, not because of what they have going on, but they do have good things going on.
Yeah.
But this is just a really well thought out and crafted email. Like the logic is there. So I know that's a silly way to say I trust whatever these people end up doing, but I gotta be honest. They seem pretty well put together. Now here's the direction I would go.
Yeah.
Thinking through this, I like the idea of using the gift money and the 529 money up front until the home is paid off.
Yeah.
In 2 years. Because if they do that, then they can begin to some degree to cash flow college. And in fact, that's part of Mrs. Planner and I's plan. With 2 kids who will be in college at the same time. We are, of course, aggressively saving into 529 plans. I don't just do those commercials on the radio for nothing. I actually save into one, invest in one. But part of our plan is our home will be paid off, and we'll be able to use that monthly cash flow to help fund college. I also like the idea here, Joe and Michelle, if you're listening, which we can only assume that they are. I also like their plan to make the kids take out some loans. Now, some parents may disagree with that particular theory. And in fact, that was never one of my plans for my kids, is to have them take out loans. But now that Joe and Michelle, as much as I trust them, now that that's part of their plans, I actually am sort of considering that. You know, it's funny. I had my college paid for. My parents, actually, I think they refinanced their home, our family home, to send me to college. Of course, my sister had a college scholarship because she's a dominant athlete, but I did not. And so I never paid a dime for my college education. And Nicole, I know this is a weird thing to say. I kind of wish I would have. I think I would have taken a little bit more seriously.
See, and that's where I'm sitting here thinking that's my only thing that I disagree with them, is that this is coming from the eyes of a 24-year-old who is paying down student loans. And I'm very thankful for everything that my parents did to help send me to school. Part of my student loan was if I didn't get certain grades, I had to take out student loans. And so there was a semester that I'm now kind of taking care of. And that's the only thing. I think if there's a certain amount of student loans that's doable, that helps keep a kid accountable after they graduate from school. But at the same time, I'm seeing individuals that I went to school with that are paying off their student loans, and it is just crippling them right now.
So let me pump the brakes here for a second, because I think you just said something that I had never considered. Are you telling me our fun little Nicole, one semester your grades were not what they needed to be, and in that moment you had to take out student loans?
Yeah, that was the deal, is I had to maintain a certain GPA, and if my GPA fell beneath that, I had to pay for whatever course that grade did not, meet the bill.
Oh my God, I love your parents so much.
Oh my gosh, it was the best. And that's like one of those. So if they were to do something like that, I think that's a great encourager, because like I said, from my standpoint, that was what got my butt back in line, is I was like, this is horrible. I don't want to have to do this for the rest of my college career, is to take out student loans. And so that got my butt back in line to get the grades that I needed to. So I think if you use it as that kind of leverage, that's a good way to go about it. But like I said, it's also one of those, I see the negative effects that it has on some of my friends I went to school with.
If we're having an honest conversation here, which I believe we are, I have to admit, if my parents set up that thing for me, I would have $100,000 in student loans, because my grades weren't fantastic. They were okay, right? But I don't think I respond well to that sort of negative reinforcement. Some people do, some people don't. I'm the don't.
Yeah.
But that's a cool thing for you. And to Joe and Michelle, I don't know. Maybe that works for your people. Maybe it doesn't. But I do like, I don't think you should refinance the house.
No.
I don't think, unless you have to, I probably wouldn't get the home equity line involved. And I think a big part of this too is you can't write a blank check when you're going to have 4 kids going through college. That is to suggest you're really going to have to strategically help them choose the right school. And I think too often parents write that blank check. And they say, well, whatever you want, we'll figure a way out. And while that is a nice thing to say, and arguably the inside of a Hallmark card, I don't think it's a great strategy for a college education because of, Nicole, like you said, the realities of trying to pay off those debts post-graduation.
Yeah, no. I think that's like one of those, I think that's part of the conversation, and you and I have talked about this before, of what a crucial role school selection is in the whole college conversation.
Yeah, and then, I've got a good friend who's got, his daughter's probably 26 now. And, based on what she studied in school, there was little to no chance she could find a job in that field. I mean, the field, I don't want to get too specific here, but the field kind of doesn't even exist
No.
Yet she studied it, and it was sort of like, I gotta admit, it was a little self-indulgent. You go to school for 4 years to study something that. This is where Mrs. Planner and I sometimes have different perspectives on this. So I'm trying to be careful in case she's listening today.
No, I'm the same way.
Like, I know a lot of people go to get their education for enlightenment and all those sorts of things, but when tens of thousands of dollars are on the line and you don't have tens of thousands of dollars, enlightenment can't really be the reason that you study one thing versus another that can provide you the means to pay back the loan.
No, like it was one of those, did I want to study, dance and take fashion classes my whole college career? Yes, absolutely. Did I though? No.
Did I want to study dance and take fashion classes my entire career? No, I didn't.
Bass fishing classes though?
Oh my God. IU has a bass fishing team. Most major colleges have a bass fishing team. I follow them on the gram.
I wonder if you could swing a special deal or something to have to be like an assistant coach or something because of the work that you do with them.
That's a really good point. Here's the thing, though. I don't know enough about fishing to teach the young people about fishing. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. Then coming up after the break, more of our show. It'll be so great. More of the show, the Pete the Planner Show. If you miss any of it, go to PeteThePlanner.com/podcast. If you want to email us, and maybe I'll read your email on the air, go to askpete@PeteThePlanner.com. Coming up after the break, the biggest waste of money of the week. And yes, it's a horrible airline story. All that is next. I'm Pete the Planner.
Every day living through the peace of my soul, I remain whole, even in the middle of the pain. Even though my life has the rain, I still remain sane. Writing and creating for my life, and my pen is my sword given by the Lord, and I use it to fight the tides of restriction. Sometimes I'm conflicted, find myself looking at the trees too much and can't see the forest. Enemy shall inherit the earth, and I want to inherit something other than the high blood pressure and diabetes. So work is what I gotta do. Stay true to my enemy and water the trees that I sing from, and look out for the lumberjacks. Running with the gale force wind at my back. Swift and enduring, I remain calm. Swift and enduring, I remain calm. Swift and enduring, I remain calm. This lays great errors to rest. Let me remain calm until it all.
This week's Blom, biggest waste of money of the week, blends. Oh, by the way, I did mention it earlier. It's a road edition, another Peter on the Road edition of the Pete the Planner Show. I'm in a hotel room in Phoenix, Arizona. I think no more road. I guess we'll do one more, Nicole, from Orlando, right?
When are you in Orlando?
I don't know. Maybe. No one knows.
I don't know. Maybe we'll do one in studio next week.
So, biggest waste of money of the week this week. It's sort of an unfortunate incident. I was, of course, working out. It was about 6 a.m. on Wednesday morning, and I get a notification on my phone that my flight delayed from 10:20 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Now, Nicole, that's a heck of a delay. 10:20 to 3:30
That's
is
a delay
big.
if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. And so the problem was that meant I was going to miss my connection in Denver. Now, at this point in time, that's a bad thing because I had to speak in Arizona later that afternoon, so I did not have the time to miss a flight.
No.
So I pulled a little travel ninja move that I've learned that instead of trying to rebook completely to Phoenix, what I would do is take a different flight, different airline, to Denver to catch my original connection, right?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's a stellar move. Now, if you do that, here's what you got to do. This is a little travel hacker action for you here today. Here's what you got to do if you ever do that. You have to call the original airline and tell them that you're not going to be on the first leg of the trip, because they will cancel your second leg of the trip if you're not on the first leg of the trip. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
So I did that, and I explained the situation. Like, I had to be there. They obviously were having problems, and they were going to have me 5 or 6 hours late. And so, Nicole, they rebooked my ticket and just made it a Denver to Phoenix. And here's where it gets bad.
Oh.
I went from the A boarding group to the C boarding group.
No.
and they didn't refund the first leg of the journey, and I had to pay $400 to get from Indy to Denver on United.
Oh my God.
So that is this week's biggest waste of money of the week. But here's the thing. I made it in one piece. I'm very excited. And I can't wait to take the red eye home tonight.
Oh my gosh. Like the airlines, who I landed around like 1 a.m. Tuesday, only to then be followed up with the Southwest tragedy that is going on right now.
I know. Yeah, that's fun. That's awful. That's a terrible situation. As someone who flies a lot, I don't even really think about the possibility of that.
No, neither did I. Especially being on a Southwest flight, sitting by a window seat, I didn't even have that idea.
I do want to give a preview of what's on the show next week. Yeah, I'm thinking ahead, Nicole. I know what is going to be on the show next week.
It's like you're a planner.
I know. So you don't know this yet, but we are doing a group book club at work. I haven't. Did I tell you that yet?
No, I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. So
yeah. So I'm telling everyone on Monday we're reading a new book. It's about habits, and so next week on the show we're going to talk about habits. We're going to talk about how a person can identify the negative habits, the bad habits in their life, and replace those habits with good habits. Now, here's the challenge with this, as I really tease next week's show. It is not a straight exchange. It's not, for instance, as I wrote about this in USA Today this week, it's not like changing batteries out of a remote control car. It's not like the batteries run out, they're bad, you take them out, you put good ones in, and you're off and running again.
Yeah.
If changing habits from bad to good were that easy, everyone would do it, and there would be no behavioral issues.
No.
Unfortunately, it's just not that way. So the challenge that we will tackle next week is how to identify the bad habits. And a lot of times, you won't even realize that what you're doing is a bad habit because it in itself is just a habit to you, and it doesn't feel bad because you're tolerant. You become increasingly tolerant of that particular behavior. So next week is a very deep episode. We may need to light candles in the studio, according, of course, in accordance with the fire code. And I'll actually be in the studio.
That's amazing.
We can fire back up PeteThePlanner.tv, which we've been on a little bit of a hiatus because filming me in my hotel room is just really creepy.
Yeah, maybe not. We decided, maybe not.
We did it that one time when I was in Atlanta because it was a nice hotel room, but
right.
now it feels creepy. So that's what's up next week on the show. Depending on what area of the country you're in, here's the newspaper column you will see from me this week. You are going to have my new college grad piece that came out. So I think the Indianapolis Star is getting that this week, talking about the best way to start off your 45-year career. And the difference you can make is a $500,000 difference in the end. And Nicole, I believe we actually talked about that on the radio a couple of weeks ago.
I think you're right. I think we did.
And then we are going to talk, or you're going to see in the newspaper too, basically the segment we did to start our show today. The impact of paying your financial advisor, your investment advisor's fees when your investments go down. So that is, I break that down. So if you like the first part of the show today and you actually want to see the numbers, pick up a copy of USA Today or whatever Gannett paper you happen to get. And then finally, what you will see in USA Today next week will be the topic of our show next week. And that is the idea of exchanging your bad habits for good habits. That's how it works. Do you like that new segment we have called This Is in Your Paper?
This is in your paper? Yes, I like it. I also think we need to get started on Let Me Be Frank.
Yeah. All right, so let's start a new segment right now. We've got like a minute left. Nicole, this is a new segment called Let Me Be Frank, and it's a chance for you to say whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't know. I went to the post office the other day, and, I walk in, and as tax day was last Sunday, and we got an extension because of some glitch in the system, there's a couple people in there trying to get all feisty with these postal workers about things being delayed and them being charged by the government. And just let me be frank. Y'all had how many months to get your taxes put together?
Whoa.
How many months? And these are adults too. You all know what's coming. A lot of them were probably retired as well. There's not a ton of things that are surprises that you need to account for. If I can get my taxes turned in by the middle of January, as can you.
This new segment's going to be a banger.
And it's just me being
Holy cow.
Let me be
here's
frank.
Here's the funny thing to me, Frank.
Yeah.
This has all occurred now that you're a year older.
Yes.
Like I'm not kidding. You went from 23 to 24 and you're basically 45 now.
Yeah. I see things through a different lens now.
All right. That's all we have time for this week. I'm sure you're glad, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Again, go to PeteThePlanner.com/podcast. If you miss anything next week, exchanging bad habits for good habits in studio. Wonderful microphone edition of the show next week. Thanks for listening. Reminding you, I'm sending you good vibes because good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the Pete the Planner Show.
If you want to be on this podcast and have Pete fix your money life, then hit us up at PeteThePlanner.com/podcast. You heard me. PeteThePlanner.com/podcast. Log on.
This is for information purposes only. It's not the Swiss financial planning device. Consult a financial advisor.
Released from Everest, the fresh is fresh, and you can call me E.T. Word to John Tesh. Let me bless this harmonic presentation. It's amazing, so amazing. I'm the reason. Salutations, I bring you love, trying greetings from a faraway land. I am the sole controller. Put the remote down and let me take control. You're now a part of my zone, so enjoy yourself. Love Tron can restore your health. I bring you greetings, salutations. How you doing? And is that how y'all say it? The tinkling of the keys is an homage to the little star. I sojourn over poetic descriptions of sound and travel to my other world. Out of this world, spaceship on my arm took me home, fueled by the ink and the megabytes and the hypertext transfer protocol, stronger than the Skynet and the Terminator. I push faders into warp speed, glide with ease, creating a breeze they call a black hole. Event horizon, no rear view concerns. This I adjourn, and beats I burn. This I adjourn, and beats I burn. Salutations, I bring you love, trying greetings from a faraway land. I am the sole controller. Put the remote down and let me take control. You're now a part of my zone, so enjoy yourself. Love Tron can restore your health. I bring you greetings, salutations. How you doing? And is that how y'all say it?